SCP-3509. The Test Chamber. Object Class: Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. An appointed team of qualified researchers are to monitor the interior of SCP-3509 at all times using its own system of cameras, microphones, and speakers. The teams are to deliver provisions to its current resident through the elevator that connects SCP-3509 with the rest of the site. It will also provide any help necessary to said resident in order to fulfill whichever task SCP-3509 demands of it. The appointed team leader will have discretionary authority over the best course of approach towards those demands. A single Class D personnel is required to reside inside SCP-3509 at any given time. A log of its activities is to be kept up to date by the research team. In case of its decease or termination, another subject will be sent to occupy the vacancy. Any Class D assigned at SCP-3509 are required to get a perfect score in the standardized Foundation test N051-RP, which measures the obedience and compliance of the subject. Those that also show signs of introversion or tendency to isolation will be given priority to be selected. The newly selected Class D personnel is to be injected with a very small explosive charge that can be remotely activated inside its thoracic chamber prior to their entry. This is because the technical difficulties SCP-3509 creates to regular termination procedures once the subject is inside. The research team is to terminate the subject in case of disobedience or inability to comply with the order provided by SCP-3509. In the light of the properties of SCP-3509, the need to rotate the Class D personnel has been deemed unnecessary as long as the previous procedures are being followed. Description: SCP-3509 is an underground complex with a surface of redacted square meters, being equipped with a control room, a testing chamber, living quarters, and a restroom. It is located redacted meters under the bottom floor of Site Redacted. Its only entrance is an elevator that connects it with the observation room located at Section Redacted of the site. Prior to becoming SCP-3509, this underground complex was used as a testing facility by the Foundation, where experimentation and stress tests were realized on SCP-3509 and anomalous items to observe their reactions in extreme situations. SCP-3509 started showing anomalous effects after Redacted 2001, when the Foundation carried out inside its testing chamber the failed experiment on Redacted, and the subsequent incident on the 8th day of continuous testing. This incident caused the members of the Foundation present on the complex to experience an adverse effect similar to what would be called SCP-3509-B, with the exception of a sole survivor, which became its first resident. The object experimented upon was later retrieved without apparent change on SCP-3509. The following is a compilation of any anomalous effects observed within SCP-3509. SCP-3509 will constantly give commands to its resident, one at a time. To issue each order, an unidentified synthesized voice will sound through the speakers of the complex. This voice is to be referred to as SCP-3509-A. Said order is observed to be seemingly random most of the times, ranging from inane to extremely hazardous to the subject. So far, it has never given an order that was physically impossible to achieve. The reason why it continues to give those commands is unknown. When an order is given, a display in the control room of the underground complex will show a countdown. The amount of time varies between a minute and a few days, with the longest time recorded being 9 days. Experimentation has shown that both the order and the countdown will be given even if no resident is currently inside SCP-3509, or if the previous inhabitant has perished. SCP-3509 only accepts human beings as its residents and will require them to personally fulfill the order. Any other attempts by third persons outside SCP-3509 or by animals and electronic mechanisms sent inside will be ignored. A human resident may still use the help of the previous to achieve the expected result, as long as the inhabitant contributes in a significant way to the fulfillment of the order. After an order is successfully carried out, SCP-3509 will confirm its accomplishment. It seems to be impossible to conceal the fulfillment of any command inside it regardless of the method. The confirmation of the accomplishment will cause the countdown to be turned off, and SCP-3509-A will congratulate the resident. Afterwards, it will remain silent during an hour until the announcement of its next order. Any living resident attempting to leave SCP-3509 will suffer a series of physical changes that will eventually lead to its death on the way up during the elevator ride, or if they try to escape using alternative methods. The only way to survive at that point is re-entering SCP-3509 before any critical damage has been received, as it will halt the process. Those changes vary from individual to individual. Some observed instances of the process are the creation of multiple lacerations across the body of the subject, melting of the limbs and torso, decomposition of their body as they are still alive, transformation of their living tissue into a glass-like substance, the continuous generation of metal shrapnel inside the body, among others. This process will be named SCP-3509-B. The current observed radius outside SCP-3509 for this effect to take place is redacted meters. Any living human that tries to enter SCP-3509 while it already has another resident will also be affected by SCP-3509-B. However, other entities like inanimate objects, animals, plants, or human corpses have been shown to be able to enter and leave it completely unharmed. If multiple subjects enter at the same time while SCP-3509 is unoccupied, all of them but one will end up suffering the effects of SCP-3509-B. The surviving subject will be physically unharmed, but will usually have to be terminated due to its highly unstable psychological state after having witnessed what happened to the other subjects. See Addendum 3509-2 for more details. Any attempts to breach the underground complex by any other means have ended in failure. Currently, no further attempts are allowed. It has been observed that SCP-3509 has at least some degree of sentience and consciousness of itself, as shown in the logs in Addendum 3509-1. In the only instance that the order wasn't fulfilled in time, the area of effect of SCP-3509-B began expanding at an alarming rate, affecting multiple SCP Foundation staff and Class D present on the site. See Addendum 3509-2 for more details. Besides the aforementioned, no other anomalous phenomena can be observed either on SCP-3509 or its resident. If the subject is complying and is able to complete tasks ordered by SCP-3509, it can survive within it during long periods of time. The record time of a resident surviving within the complex has been for 5 years. In some instances, the observer team observed traces akin to that of symbiotic nature between SCP-3509 and its resident. However, these behaviors are not frequent, as SCP-3509 usually shows very little regard to the well-being of its inhabitant. At the current point in time, it has not been fully tested what happens if an order given by SCP-3509 is disobeyed, as so far, every single order it has given has been eventually carried out, albeit one outside the time limit. The Foundation's expert on theoretical approach hypothesized that due to the events surrounding the incident detailed in Addendum 3509-2, it is very likely that in the event of complete disobedience, it could indefinitely expand the area of effect of SCP-3509-B. This possible event would create uncountable losses for the Foundation and the loss of Site redacted as a whole or worse. Based on that hypothesis, O5 redacted decided that an obedient approach of having expendable personnel obeying the orders that SCP-3509 gave was a safer and more cost-effective option than the possible alternative. Thus, any experimentation based on disobeying the order or letting the timer run out again have been prohibited. Addendum 3509-1. The following is an excerpt of some of the logs kept by the research team tasked with SCP-3509 to be used as reference. Day: redacted 2002. Resident: D3541. Order: jump. Time limit: 5 hours. Result: the Class D complied almost immediately. No assistance was required. Day: redacted 2002. Resident: D3541. Order: study calculus for 3 hours straight. Time limit: 12 hours and 20 minutes. Result: the Class D was provided with calculus reference books and asked to study them. One member of the research team offered to tutor him across the site speakers. Day: redacted 2002. Resident: D3541. Order: rip out your nails from your left hand. Time limit: 27 minutes. Result: the researcher team provided a pair of pliers through the elevator. Although strongly reticent, the subject complied. Disinfectant and bandages were provided by the team after the event. Day: redacted 2002. Resident: D3541. Order: dance the Macarena. Time limit: 3 hours and 1 minute. Result: D3541 told the researcher team that he didn't know the dance. The researcher team provided a television with a videotape that demonstrated the steps of the dance. After some attempts, D3541 achieved to do a dance sufficient enough for the order to be deemed accomplished. Day: redacted 2003. Resident: D3557. Order: the floors are dirty, clean them. Time limit: 5 hours and 49 minutes. Result: the researcher team provided D3557 with cleaning tools and it proceeded to obey the required task. The statement, "the floors are dirty," was found to be most unusual, as SCP-3509-A hadn't said this kind of comment on an object before besides the congratulatory message at the fulfillment of an order. Day: redacted 2003. Residence: D3557. Terminated. D4286. Order: write a poem. Time limit: 1 hour and 30 minutes. Result: the Class D told the research team that he wasn't illiterate. After a discussion within the team, it was decided that trying to teach D3557 how to write in that short amount of time was highly unlikely. D3557 was terminated through the explosive charge in his chest, and a replacement was sent. This replacement was tasked to write the poem once the elevator had reached its destination before exploring the rest of the complex. Once SCP-3509 congratulated her, the research team asked her to dispose of the corpse of the previous resident through the elevator. Note: It seems that when the elevator is on the entrance of the underground complex, SCP-3509 recognizes it as part of itself, allowing its resident to carry its orders inside it. This should be noted for further reference. Signed, Team Director Dr. Karam. Day. Redacted 2004. Residence D3411. Terminated. Junior Researcher Garcia. Order. Smoke a cigarette. Time limit 1 minute. Result. See Addendum 3509-2. Day. Redacted 2004. Residence. Junior Researcher Garcia. Deceased. D4371. Order. Dance clack. Time limit 1 day, 2 hours, and 56 minutes. Result. Junior Researcher Garcia committed suicide. A new Class D resident was sent to carry out the order, as well as to retrieve the remains of the junior researcher. Day. Redacted 2005. Residence. D4401. Order. Sing out loud the song YMCA by the Village People. Time limit 9 hours, 42 minutes. Result. D4401 showed signs of stage fright and told the researcher team that he was feeling too self-conscious to sing. The researcher team reasoned and encouraged him for a period of time until the Class D suggested that he would feel more comfortable singing if the researcher team sang along with him through the speakers. After a short discussion within the team, it was decided that it would be easier to humor the Class D than preparing another substitute, and agreed to the subject's request. The order was subsequently fulfilled without further incident. Day. Redacted 2006. Residence D4441. Order. Do 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups. Time limit 24 hours. Result. Due to the extremely poor physical state of D4441, problems arose as it seemed to be unable to finish the regimen in time. The researcher team spent the day giving the Class D encouragement and teaching it techniques to facilitate the fulfillment of the order. It was eventually accomplished by the 22nd hour mark, with signs of exhaustion on the Class D. Day. Redacted 2006. Residence D4441. Order. Pet a koala. Time limit 2 hours. Result. One mobile task force team was sent post-haste to the closest zoo to retrieve a specimen, managing its recovery and transportation within the allocated time. After the order was fulfilled, the specimen was returned and amnestics were administered to any witnesses of the operation. Day. Redacted 2008. Residence D5026. Order. Do not say, "My Uncle Steve has a big cow." Time limit 7 days, 16 hours, and 33 minutes. Result. This was the first instance SCP-3509 gave an order of inaction. Since it was unknown at the time how it would deem the inaction as fulfilled, any possible precautionary measures were taken to ensure the safety of the site. D5026 was forbidden to open his mouth, aside from eating and drinking until further notice. The researcher team closely monitored D5026 at all times to ensure termination in case of any attempt at speaking. As the countdown kept descending without any indication of fulfillment of the order, an emergency meeting was called to discuss the situation with the site director and other chief staff from the Foundation. During the last hour of the time limit, an evacuation of all on-site personnel was issued, and the use of Omega nuclear warheads was prepared for the worst-case scenario. At the last second, SCP-3509-A gave the announcement of order fulfilled and added that its resident could now say whatever it wanted. Once the crisis was deemed to be averted, the Foundation staff returned to their regular activities, and the incident was disguised as a security drill. Afterwards, D-5026 commented how easy this order had been compared to previous ones since he didn't have any uncles called Steve. Day, redacted, 2009. Residence, D-5026. Order, repair the broken lamp. Time limit, 6 days, 3 hours, and 4 minutes. Result: D-5026 was given the materials and instructions by the team to repair the light bulb that was accidentally shattered during the previous order of play racquetball by yourself for 5 minutes. Day, redacted, 2009. Residence, D-5026, deceased. Order, walk 3 meters on a tightrope. Time limit, 3 days, 5 hours, and 15 minutes. Result: the researcher team provided the materials for the Class D to make an improvised tightrope inside the facility. Several attempts were made by D-5026 during the course of the first 2 days. At the last attempt, just as SCP-3509-A gave the congratulatory message, D-5026 slipped and hit its head on a table, causing skull fracture and internal hemorrhage. Due to the inability of the researcher team to provide effective medical aid in time caused by the inherent characteristics of SCP-3509, D-5026 perished of blood loss. Day, redacted, 2011. Residence, D-5584. Order, write erotic fanfiction featuring your parents. Time limit, 7 hours and 28 minutes. Result: at the beginning, D-5584 strongly refused to comply until the research team threatened to terminate it. The audiovisual recordings showed the Class D writing something on a piece of paper and immediately tearing it apart after SCP-3509-A gave the congratulatory announcement. Day, redacted, 2013. Residence, D-5584. Order, completely immerse yourself in sulfuric acid. Time limit, 5 days, 12 hours, and 1 minute. Result: the research team provided a tank full of sulfuric acid through the elevator in a hazmat suit. After D-5544 had been reassured that the suit would protect him from any major burns, he decided to comply. Treatment materials for second-degree chemical burns, as well as telephonic assistance on how to apply them, was provided after the testing. Day, redacted, 2013. Residence, D-5584. Order, ride an elevator. Time limit, 1 day, 2 hours, and 3 minutes. Result: discussion of making D-5584 use the entrance elevator took place within the researcher team. It was ultimately decided against it for ethical reasons, and instead a small mini elevator was built and sent inside SCP-3509 to fulfill the order. Day, redacted, 2015. Residence, D-5584. Order, good job. You may now exit SCP-3509 and bring in a new test subject. Time limit, 9 days. Result: permission was given at D-5584 to use the main elevator by the researcher team. This had been the only instance of someone being able to leave the underground complex without being affected by SCP-3509-B. Another Class D was sent inside SCP-3509, which marked the order as fulfilled. Further testings showed that barring this exception, SCP-3509-B still occurs every time anyone else tries to exit, and continues functioning as if this incident never happened. When interrogated about it, D-5584 claimed to have no knowledge why only he was allowed to leave. D-5584 has been administered Class A amnestics and repurposed at another location. Addendum 3509-2. The following is a compilation of documents recording the containment breach caused by SCP-3509 on Redacted 2004. Document 1. Email from the team director to the research team sent the day prior to the containment breach. From Team Director, Dr. Karam. To Dr. Cobb, Dr. Zurov, Junior Researcher Garcia, Research Assistant Tanaka. Subject: Experimentation on the behavior of SCP-3509. A test is scheduled for tomorrow. This test is to measure how SCP-3509 will react if multiple living individuals try to enter at the same time. The test will begin immediately after the current resident fulfills any order issued by SCP-3509 after 8:30. When the order is fulfilled, the resident will be terminated, and 4 Class D will be sent down with the elevator simultaneously. I expect all of you to be prepared and ready to deal with any unexpected consequences. Signed, Dr. Karam. Document 2. Excerpt of the telephonic interview with Junior Researcher Garcia, the resident at the time of SCP-3509, taken an hour after the stabilization of the containment breach. Recorded by Agent 58, leader of the squadron sent to investigate the current events, using the telephone situated on the research team's observation room. Agent 58. Who is it? Junior Researcher Garcia. Thank God someone picked the phone. Thank God. This is Agent 58, leader of the squadron, Redacted. Who am I talking to? I'm Redacted, Garcia, a junior researcher. My ID number is Redacted. From where are you calling from? I'm inside SCP-3509. According to the information given to me, only Class D are usually sent inside SCP-3509. Yeah, that's... shit. That's usually right. And how come a junior researcher has entered it? Well, the incident happened and I couldn't think anything else than getting on the elevator. Wait, are you telling me that you were present during the incident? Yeah, fuck, I was there. I was assigned to the researcher team for SCP-3509. Hold on a minute. Background noises of Agent 58 speaking through a walkie-talkie. Sir, I would like to ask for your cooperation to relate your accounts of the events that happened today from 0937 hours to 1256 hours. Well, we had this test programmed in which we were supposed to send multiple Class D inside SCP-3509. During the test, we observed that all of them but one became affected by a particular gruesome manifestation of SCP-3509-B. It hurts. The cameras show that the surviving Class D ran away from the elevator once it opened its doors and sat on a corner of the back room, cradling his head and moved back and forth. Please, may I ask for some first aid supplies and painkillers? I'm hurt and I could really use them. Let me consult my superiors. Background noises of Agent 58 speaking through a walkie-talkie. Okay, I've been granted permission to provide the required items. They will be sent by the elevator at the entrance. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hold on still while I crawl to get them. Crawl? No response. 30 minutes of silence, occasionally interrupted by walkie-talkie conversations coming from Agent 58. Okay, I'm back. I owe you a big one. Although I feel kind of dizzy now. Please, Continue your report. You may rest afterwards. Fine. Upon seeing the results of the test, the team director assembled the rest of the group and we discussed whether if we should terminate the Class D immediately or if we should wait and see if we could regain enough self-control to obey the next order. We decided on the latter to avoid wasting even more Class D today. Then the voice spoke and that happened. What happened? Smoke a cigarette, the voice said, and gave a time limit of 1 minute. 1 freaking minute. The least that SCP-3509 had given before were 15 minutes. And the order that time was for the resident to scratch its nose, for crying out loud. Calm down. How did the team react? It was chaos. We had been instructed to not let the timer run out after all. Not until further testing could be carried out at least. Dr. Karam started yelling at the Class D to react to the facility speakers, but he could just not do anything but keep prying. Dr. Cobb started yelling orders about terminating the Class D and sending another one with some smokes and a lighter. Aki also threw some of her own cigarettes inside of the elevator. Me, on the other hand, just stood there like an idiot. Fuck. Did the countdown reach 0? Yes. Please explain what happened at that moment. As the countdown ended, the whole underground complex flashed some red lights and the surviving Class D inside began to scream as his whole body was affected by SCP-3509-B while still being inside SCP-3509. It was different than other instances previously observed, as it went slower, and based on my own experience, it seemed much, much more painful. It started by the plant of his feet, turning them into ashes in this case. That soon spread to his legs and lower torso. The subject could not stop screaming and we, the team, stared in terror as he twisted and turned in agony. The next thing we knew is that our own body started being affected by SCP-3509-B as well, despite being outside of its usual range of action. Dr. Cobb hurriedly pressed the switch to terminate the subject. That wasn't enough to stop our own ailment, though. I saw them all die, one after another. I heard screams outside the observation room, as well as someone yelling that the backup Class D was attempting escape. It was hell. The image of Aki screaming as her skin began opening up multiple holes that showed her inside is something I don't think I will ever be able to live down. Hold up. There's something that I don't understand. If you say that everyone around you died because of SCP-3509-B, how come you are still alive? I don't know why. At the beginning, SCP-3509-B started wrecking my feet at the same rate as everyone else. But then, somehow, it started to consume me slower. I don't really get it myself, but I think it slowed down on me alone after Dr. Cobb terminated the Class D for some reason. My best guess is that SCP-3509 had already selected me as its next resident by then, but that's just my hypothesis. Noted. Continue. At that time, I couldn't think of anything. I was confused and hurting. I didn't know what to do, just that I needed to stop that somehow. I acted without thinking, and using what remained of my legs, I entered the elevator, pushing the button to go down. So you entered there voluntarily, despite knowing the consequences? I was desperate, okay? I realized what a blunder I had made as soon as the doors closed, and sat down as SCP-3509-B continued to consume my flesh. I knew I was going to die there, and nothing mattered anymore. That's when I looked down and saw on the floor the cigarettes that Aki had thrown before. I think at that point I was experiencing an adrenaline rush because, despite the pain, I thought, you know what? Why not have one last smoke? I grabbed the cigarette and started smoking it. That's when the lights flashed white and the other door to the elevator opened. I heard SCP-3509-A's voice giving the same line it says every time the order is fulfilled. However, it added at the end something that I'd never heard before, that it would not allow for any other delays in fulfilling the order. I see. Hold on one moment. Background noises of Agent 58 speaking through a walkie-talkie. Okay, that would be sufficient for now. My most sincere condolences for what happened to you, sir. Don't need them. Just tell me if there are other people alive on the site. Yes. Although some heavy losses have occurred in the closest sectors, most of the site's personnel have survived. Regrettably, your team, I know. Well, that's everything. I think I will rest for now. These painkillers are really kicking in. The synthesized voice of SCP-3509-A sounds on the receiver. Next testing procedure order. Curse out loud. Time limit, 40 minutes. Fuck my life. The synthesized voice of SCP-3509-A sounds on the receiver. Order fulfilled. Congratulations on the success of the test. A following test will be performed shortly. Document 3. 05 Redacted Directive issued after the containment breach. Due to a containment breach of SCP-3509's hazardous properties, a total of redacted members of the Foundation passed away, and redacted were severely injured in an area of redacted cubic meters surrounding it. Since then, it has been observed that the area of effect of SCP-3509-B has progressively gone back to its original size. Our experts have determined that if it weren't for the actions of junior researcher Garcia, the area of the adverse effects would have increased to undetermined lengths. In light of these recent events, it has been decided that any experiment regarding the disobedience or reaching the time limit of the countdown of the order issued by SCP-3509 is absolutely prohibited. Signed, 05, Redacted. Thank you for listening to SCP-3509, The Test Chamber, by Prio Clenth. If you enjoyed this SCP, please like and subscribe, and follow the link in the description of the SCP Wiki, and vote up the article to support the author and the SCP Wiki as a whole.